Greetings, peoples. Welcome to Socially Single. I'm V, and I am back to discuss the updates with my new fiance. I'll be going over two episodes. There's going to be episode 13 and 14. 13 being Do As I Say, Not As I Do. And the latest one being, what is the show? It was On Borrowed Time. So, as we know, the episodes titles typically kind of give us a glimpse into what the theme of the episode is going to be about. And I'm going to be doing it based off the couples. It was chaotic trying to upload different couples. So let's just see what I get through in one video. And then if I have to do another one, I'll do another one. And I'll, of course, let you know which couples will be in there. I'm not feeling very long-winded because it's been a lot going on and I've been busy. Nor am I not feeling my full best. So let's see what I can get out and where we're going to start and then take it from there. Cool? All right. So this time around, I normally start off with Marissa and Edward, but this time let's just start with Catie and Josh and get them out the way. So we are going to be catching up with them and they're back from California, right? And they're back home in Portland. And she's going out with her friends, her girlfriends, the ones we have not seen all season. Because I was like, does Catie even have any friends that are not men even? Because we haven't seen a whole lot of the women. However, she's going on a bachelorette party with her girlfriends, and there's about 4 or 5 of them. And she's doing this weird thing where it's like a funeral theme where she's saying goodbye and mourning the death of her single life in preparation for the married life, which on the surface is cute. But do you know how like some people be having the right idea, but it's just like, it's the right idea. It could even be a good execution. I just wish you weren't the one to doing it. That's just like how I feel with Catie, of like, that seems fun and cute, and I get it, it's on the nose. I just wish it wasn't you who was the one doing it. So they go to this bar that is very funeral themed, and of course her friends are like, you know, I never would have thought that this year would ever came for Catie because she's such a hoe, pretty much. Like, she's very adventurous and she does a lot of things. So I never thought that she would be committing to this sort of relationship. And in the car, where she's dilemma with her friends, of course, Catie has to bring it back to making out or whatever. Like, so tell me, like, what's your worst, like, give me your best or your worst make out story or whatever that you have. And mind you, just kind of let y'all know, after she talked to her mom in the previous episode, apparently, and of course talked to Josh, it's been her commitment to be like, oh, I'm not going to, you know, make out with other people. I'm not going to drink a whole lot. I'm going to drink less. So I'm making this commitment to be a better person. And it took her mom telling her that, and then I guess begging to let her know how good of a person Josh is for her to get here. So, you know, she tells her girlfriends that, like, you know, I like the thought of being married. And only thing is that she wants things to be open. Because the reality is Catie is not really 100% about this marriage. She's very concerned about being committed and monogamous and not being able to pretty much have sex or to make out with other people and having to only be with Josh. She has said more than 2 or 3 times in this season that she's not satisfied sexually by Josh. And she tells her friends that he does not do, what's the proper term for the lingus, I believe it is, you know, with my downstairs. She doesn't do any of that. He's not open to that. And her friend's like, oh my God. And so it's clear that she has pretty much told her that sex is a very big part of a relationship. And that's okay. You just need to be honest about that with your potential partner, right? You know, and so it is leading her to this place where she's like, she tells her friends at her bachelorette party, before she's about to get married, that she thinks she wants to have an open relationship because she thinks she's more going to be more so in a non-monogamous space. Now, here's the issue that I have with Catie. Again, I don't disagree with the feelings she's presenting or the how she feels about it. I actually can appreciate, hey, let's go ahead and have this conversation early on. In a way, I can relate to Catie a little about that as someone who has chosen to be a bit more prudish in my dating life and, in my dating life prior to getting married. I really can understand the thought process and where she's coming from. Here's what I would say though. As we just learned watching This Is Probably, for those who watch This Is Probably, that was another show that was on WeTV after Love at the Lockup. Open relationships don't solve issues. Like, going open needs to be an agreement between two people. And if, to be honest, your foundation and your love have to be even stronger to be able to handle all of the emotional considerations and boundaries that must be respected for a successful open relationship. And y'all just aren't even married. Like, you're just doing this whole situation. So of course her friends are like, this is a lot. You need to talk to him about this. It's not really fair to him and talking to him about this. And I mean, I guess you want an open relationship, which again, I'm okay with her having a conversation. But another thing that she does is, you just came from your mom who you're saying y'all are extremely strict Lutheran subscribing people as part of your religion, and y'all just got on Josh for being, pretty much an atheist for all intents and purposes, and how he's going to go to hell for not believing in God. But the Lutheran faith does not believe in or recognize open relationships. They barely recognize LGBTQ. So anything that's considered non-monogamous is not something that the Lutheran Church, particularly the ones here in the United States, recognize. I did a little bit of research. And so this is like what makes it annoying with Catie, because there's a lot of contradictory. And she kind of came out and said, like the editing team was this way because we're doing the whole, and it's not what I meant. It was edited to be framed a different way. No, like, you're not sure about what you want and you're wasting this man's time. And Josh is, I'm really unsure of his motives for being here. But I just don't feel like that he is just so in love with Catie to where there aren't any other options. Because again, I've been wondering the question, like, where is his self-respect as a man or just as an individual to keep putting up with what he puts up with from Catie? And like, what is she doing for you that makes what we would say is tolerable for you? Like, is it just because you're here for the green card? Is it because you looking for opportunity or buying in the United States? Is it really because of Catie? Like, these are questions that are fair to ask in this situation. Furthermore, in this latest episode, they decided to kind of go out for a picnic, and Josh, begins to say that how he's been drinking a lot. The night of her bachelorette party, he woke up hungover because he saw a news story in reference to what's been going on here in the States regarding, immigrants, and that, while Trump is supposedly claiming to get the bad ones, of course, we now know the intentions and the actions behind ICE and what they're directed to do. It does not just stop at the bad ones. Anyone and everyone who is deemed at the discretion of an ICE agent or something, pretty much, is liable to be put through a very unfortunate circumstance or inconvenience in regards to having to deal with proving their citizenship here. And the ones that do have green cards and the ones that aren't in a certain position, or have legal citizenship, are not immune to being deported or going through this process because of how biased and how wild west everything has been under this administration. And Josh speaks to that. Like, he's like, I'm concerned of being an immigrant here. Pretty much there's so many social tensions here in America. Like, I don't feel welcome as an immigrant, and I don't necessarily know this is a safe place for me to be. So, she asks him, how can I help you feel more welcome? And he's like, here, and he's like, I just want to feel safe and, and it's like I can be vulnerable. I can talk about things and not feel as if this is going to blow up or, bite me in the ass pretty much. And she is like, he's telling me all this and why I feel bad for him that he feels his way. It's like he's picking the worst time to tell me this because I need to tell him that I want an open relationship. And she pauses for a moment to think about whether she should have this conversation, but to take away from his moment talking about a more serious issue that we don't get to hear a lot about on 90 Fiance, considering how the political and social tensions of our country is very relevant to this show. In my opinion, she decides to just bunk what the hell he had to say about his serious feelings regarding being in this country as an immigrant, and if we're being frank, a little bit more darker tan than the average Caucasian or white person. And then she's like, I think I may want an open relationship, and she kind of leans her way into it, and he's like, no. Like, he says in his confession, if she requests an open relationship, and his answer will be no. And she's like, no, well, I just don't feel comfortable closing off all of my experiences as a single person. And she keeps saying, I don't want to be with the same person for the rest of my life. And so she's pressuring him on, would you think you'd be open in the future about an open relationship? Like, how would this feel? And he's like, I'm not really interested. I thought that they were on the same page, but clearly we're not, and we're supposed to be getting married. They're left at a cliffhanger. And that's the update with Catie and Josh. And, it's difficult to watch, y'all, which is why I think I needed a week break from them, because Catie is a walking contradictory. And the thing is, though, because, I do think that Catie is neurodivergent. I think that she does have ADD, ADHD. I think that she's on the spectrum as well, because of how she blanks out in conversation. And to her, I don't know, credit or criticism, I guess, of the fact that you can see that while she's listening to him talk about his concerns, she hears it, but I think she processes it at a later time frame or when she's wanting to, because Catie is very self-centered and selfish. Like, this wasn't the time to have this particular conversation. And the fact that you even want to have this conversation in general and you're making this such a big deal, in my opinion, is a problem, because you already knew this about yourself and you've been had these feelings. And so either this is a farce in the middle of the storyline, or y'all have already had this discussion and we're just going through the motions. I don't know. We're going to see where they go, and I guess we'll pretty much go from there. So, all right. Next up I'm going to talk about is Debby and Mido. So we left off with the fact of he, quote unquote, called himself surprising her at the chapel and them getting married. And now it's been a couple of weeks since then, and we're catching back up with them. And apparently all has been going well between them. And, he's smiling more, and they're actually holding hands in public and acting more like a couple. And they're going on their first date as an engaged couple to a cooking class to cook, because the running joke is that media thinks that Debby can cook better, but, he knows how to cook and he's good at cooking. And so she's like, well, you can cook when I'm not here, or when I'm coming home from work. And he's like, sure, of course I'll cook, but you need more lessons. So they have this banter relationship. And, and here's the thing, me and my partner, like we definitely have, the foundation of our relationship is definitely based off of jokes and, making funnies and dad jokes and just all that kind of stuff, and sometimes we'll joke about things or have inside joke, of course, about things that others won't understand. And I thought about Debby and Mido, like maybe, just maybe, they have this connection that we just don't get, right? That we don't understand. But, I have this shirt on that says, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do, right? From James Baldwin. And, that's how I feel with Mido and Debby. Like, I can't believe anything that man says, because I see how he already has acted. I see what he has said. And I feel like that what we got when they resume filming is Mido saying, I need to turn on my acting skills and put these new things to work. to show that I really do, quote unquote, just love Debby. And if anything, I think that Mido is happier and he feels that he can maybe be himself more and move forward things because Debby has chose to isolate herself from others' opinions and thoughts about the relationship. So V, what are you talking about? Like, what made you jump to that conclusion? Reading deeper into it, we find out that previously that this man has never told Debby that he loves her. She has just presumed and said that, I know that you love me, but he's never confirmed it. And his own response is, well, Debby, you know how I feel about you. And that is insufficient, in my opinion, especially given the risk and things that she's going to have from here. But mind you, at this given point in time, we discovered from Debby that not only has he never said I loved you, but this episode we found out that she had not seen her friends in over 6 weeks since the Halloween incident when they went to the haunted house and met Mido for the first time, and things were a catastrophe. So by that time frame, we can say that we're pretty much in December. And so, in December's time frame. And so, they have been focusing only on them. And she's like, the wedding at this point is now tomorrow. And she had not talked to her friends. We didn't get any follow-up to like her conversation and the concerns that her daughter has brought to her attention in one of the previous episodes. And so, and when she asks Mido, are you ready to get married? Are you excited? He pretty much puts on the show. Like, I don't think this man cares about any of this. I think that he cares enough to get along for the get along because it makes him look good. And he realizes that he can't have these tantrums, or maybe Mido got his rock soft feeling wasn't there, and he's able to find a real spot to get what he really needs. Wink, wink. And now he's able to be more in character because he didn't probably get that back yacked a couple of times in the alleyway by the strip club when you just know when somebody done got some and they just all of a sudden real happy. I don't think it's because he gave her any or he got some from her. I just don't feel that way. And I do think that he's acting to get along with the get along. So they did this cooking class, as I said, at the end of it, they're like, she's like, I love you. I thank you for all that you're doing. I'm glad that we're here. And he's like, yeah, I love you too. And she's like, oh, that's the first time he said that to me. And she just so happy begins to cry. And I'm like, girl, he just said love you too as a reaction. Like he did not initiate this conversation. He did not come back and say he feels some type of way. And then when she asks him to kind of go with her to meet with friends because she needs to look for flowers for the wedding that's going to be tomorrow, he says no. He's not interested in many offenses with her friends. He doesn't really care about that. He tells her, those are your friends, not my friends. And here's the deal. I do believe that, like, I used to feel that when I got with somebody and I thought that when I was going to get married, when I was my younger self, I had this dream that, of course, like my friends would be their friends and their friends would be my friends. And like, we'll just be all one big happy circle. And then, of course, I kept adulting and kept growing up and realized that that's just not going to be the case, right? And there is a part of when you choose to get into a relationship that you got to cut, I won't say cut off people, but you have to protect the relationship and you have a responsibility to protect your partner. And so I feel like that while it's good that Debby is making her own decisions based off her own thoughts and what she feels, I do think that it's foolhardy if we held her to a higher level thinking status that you have friends who are expressing real concerns based off of what they know about you and your history. Your child has came to you on camera to share things with you about this person, but you're so headstrong on proving everyone that you can get married and he is worth his salt. And you're thinking that him proving his salt worth to us is by marrying him. And Debby, that's just not the case. If anything, we feel sorry for you. And that only goes to the extent of being of ignoring the signs and choosing to be foolish about it. It doesn't extend to the fact that you made a decision and you defended that decision. So whatever happens from here moves on. I'm saying this point because when she met with her girlfriends, Astra and Laura, we like Astra. Astra was the first one to kind of call out Mido and got into arguing with him and had no problems, backing down. Mido feels like that from that night that they should apologize to him because they were in the wrong and he felt attacked. And of course he does. He's a narcissist. So of course he feels like that these women are wrong and how dare they disrespect me. And there's no accountability for what he has done and how he has, how he started it actually and contributed to it. And kept it up actually. And so of course he has no incentive, and Debby is a shit kind of friend. Because your friends went through all of that for someone you brought into their lives. And he was absolutely disrespectful. I don't care if he was a woman. He was not a good time. And definitely throughout the night, and we were only out because you wanted to come out with us. And you wanted to, have them hang with us. And so when she tells her friends at the flower show that she's getting married tomorrow, they're absolutely devastated. But they don't get to relish in that feeling very long about their feelings and concerns about her getting married to someone who might not be a good fit, because she then tells them, oh yeah, y'all are not invited. I just want to be small and I don't want any hoopla. I don't want any drama. So I'm only inviting my son and my daughter. And that right there is like, so you asked me to come look at flowers for you, for your wedding tomorrow that I'm not invited to. And something tells me that these are the same friends who are going to be there, who were there before Mido 5 years ago, and who will be there after Mido. And this is how you treat them? And keep in mind, I do think as an adult, it's already hard enough to find good friends and friends who are going to be authentic and genuine with you and tell you things when you really don't want to hear them. But that showed what kind of friend Debby is and how selfish she is. And even when they asked the question, well, how has things been the past couple of weeks? Because we're concerned about how he's treating you. And of course, she puts on, she doesn't tell him, which I understand in her mind, she's protecting Mido. And she's taking on all of the accountability. I'm just not inviting him inviting you all because of those reasons. No, you're not inviting them because he has a problem with your friends. You haven't caught up with them. Not once you ask them what they've been going through or how they've been doing because of the issue between your partner and your friends. Like, Debby, you are a shit friend. And I do think that when you're going into something like this and you're sacrificing pillars in your lifestyle, which is how she has described her friends. And even the fact that her son has not met this man, but she's so concerned about his opinion of him, you don't care about what your son thinks because you're going to still get married to him anyway. We know that you got married in real life. So we just said that he hasn't met him since. If we're being honest, if the son and the daughter have any kind of relationship, then she's already told him what kind of person she is. And if he doesn't care, well, then that tells him what kind of relationship that y'all have. Right? And I get it, he's only 24, he's college, but you ain't for to tell me that as a 24-year-old in college who has a little part-time job, as Astra said, that he cannot have made time. Number one, he can't make time at any given point in time to meet the man that his mother has brought over from a different country. He's never been back to Egypt with you ever because he's just so busy. So I can tell you that you make a lot of excuses for your son. And furthermore, the son texted him while she's at the table, which caused her to cry because he's like, well, they want me to work tomorrow, so I don't know if I'm going to make it to your wedding. Why would you even reveal that on TV, Debby? I don't know, because it only makes you look bad. It only brings us additional questions as to what kind of relationship do you have with your son, and that tells her that your son really don't want to be bothered with all this foolishness. It's not a good look for you. Your daughter already doesn't like him, but I think everyone has gotten to the mindset of you're very hard headed, and so I'm gonna keep my opinion to myself because whatever I tell you, you're gonna do differently. And it gets to the point with people like that, you're just like, fine, fuck it, you do you. I'm gonna adjust how I need to adjust for my own peace, but you just do you. And that's where I think we're all at with Debby. Let's quickly go into Mallorie and Ras, and then Shea and Anabelle. Now, Mallorie and Ras, I've been very vocal about how I feel about Ras. And we finally get to this part where Mallorie really made a big mistake, in my opinion, by not telling Ras that she did not want kids or was very unsure about having kids, given how much he has been dead set on having children and is excited to have a large family, not even just 1 or 2 kids. And so, as I said before, I do think that Mallorie was being a bit manipulative, where if I can just get him where I want and he can see, all that I'm providing, he'll also, too, agree with me that we don't need kids right now. Here's the thing. I don't think Mallorie, doesn't really want children. I think that Mallorie needs therapy. I think that she needs a certain level of encouragement. I think she needs patience, not pressure. And she needs support to help her process and deal with the trauma from her childhood and the trauma she has with both of her parents separately. I actually don't think that it's not that Mallorie does not want kids. She did not reveal that even with the fact that she's missing a third of her insides or anything, how that would actually affect whether or not she can even have a child or carry a child through, the term. She hasn't mentioned anything medically that would prevent her from having children. However, I do think that she was unsure, and then that Mallorie has her own insecurities about herself, to where she felt like if she couldn't convince, not that she was chatting with Ras and she was supposed to be with Ras, that I think a small part of her was hoping that once she's in the right relationship, he will be able to provide her whatever void she needs to fill. He'll provide her that material to help her feel comfortable with having children. When I look at Mallorie, I don't see Mallorie as someone who was like, I don't ever want kids. I know that's what she's saying. And I'm a naive person. I ultimately believe what a person says. I think that with Ras being here, it has put her in a space of like, if I'm not sure we're able to have kids with all that's going on that she's cognizant about just in general, but also the fact that now that I see the real issues I have with this man and what potential future issues I can have, it's just like making me feel comfortable that we're going to even be together. And I'm not willing to, I would rather not have kids than to put my kids through another broken situation of like what I went through. And so that is what I'm really getting up from Mallorie. And again, I wanted to say she was wrong for not telling that man while he was in Turkey about the kids thing, because she tried to manipulate him into being yes, but it's also like you want him to sign a prenup, you want him to be okay with you not having kids, and then you're like, I'm not going to send extra money over to you for my family. So like he's not really getting anything in the bargain to marry you. He's giving up a lot. Let me be clear. I don't believe that Mallorie owes it to Ras to have a baby because he wants one. What I do think that she owes it to him is to say, I accept your decision if you don't want to be with me anymore because I don't want kids. Because if that's important to you and you love him, how you say you love him, Mallorie, then you would let him go. And given all that you're trying to fix and deal with to make it work for him in Alabama, I've given Mallorie credit, and I continue to give her credit. She has done her best, in my opinion, to make him feel comfortable. She has given him a hobby and things to do with the whole shed in the backyard. Some other people on this show are not doing that. She has made sure that her friends or have people around that are not going to be disrespectful or make him feel unwelcome in Alabama. In Alabama, of all places, again, something other people in this show there are not doing. She has, while she is not willing to just go buy whatever he wants, she has at least brought up a day in. She has the animals thing. I think that she is doing all she can to make him feel welcome and comfortable with the help of her friends. I don't know what this is on my hair, because y'all see I finally got my hair done. But there's something there. Get on my nerves. All right, let's go now. So there is clearly a lot of things that I think that she has done, but this right here brought the camel's back. Ross tells his family about the fact that she doesn't want kids. His family is absolutely concerned. Of course, being the culture he's from, that's not something that they say is common, and they kind of actually have a problem with that. And so they go to look at a wedding venue, which was absolutely beautiful, with an outdoor area over Alabama. And she's trying to act like while there isn't a resolve to our issue with kids, we just have to move forward plans because time is ticking. And he's not really in the mood. He's not for it. Because see, now that you've done this, Mallorie, you've given him the ultimate weaponization tool. Of like, he can weaponize this. Like, you wanted the prenup and you wanted this already. You want me to be okay with you and Brandon and all this other stuff. Like, you're going to see how real Ross really is very soon, and so are we. Because I don't think that man's going to stay here in the States. And if he does, then to me, it's going to speak to his real motive of being here, which is to assimilate to his family at all costs, even if that means him making some sacrifice to make it happen. We're going to see soon as to what happens, because I really have not heard anything about them off camera, off the show, which is good. I like watching these shows and not knowing what's going on the TikToks and everything else, because that's what the show is for. Call me old school. It just gets to be real muddy with things. So hop into Shea and Anabelle. So here's the deal. On last episode, Shea and Anabelle are working towards him losing weight, because she has said that he needs to lose some weight, and he's big, and he is. And she has him doing some exercises, and of course she bathes him afterwards and everything else. And we found out a little bit more about each of them. So Shea was married, a couple times in the past. His first wife had mental health issues and addiction issues. And Allison lost her mother at 18 years old, and she took that extremely hard. So Shea, of course, feels like that he has to take care of Allison and let her do whatever she wants, because she doesn't really have another resource like her mother in her life. And so his request to Allison is to, be a good stepmom to her, and to essentially let her know that, while he said stepmom, I think he used the wrong language. Anabelle would never be a stepmom to Allison. But what Anabelle can be to Allison is a resource, an adult resource, a woman figure for her, that she can probably grow to trust, in lieu of her mom actually being, present and around, right? And so, but of course they used the whole stepmom thing, and that is a whole lot, because of course that kind of triggers Allison for obvious reasons. And the obvious reason being, she already misses her mom. She already feels that there was issues kind of going on with her. So, because we found out Allison had already had kids with the S, before she turned 18 years old. So, that's a whole lot. So Shea forces Anabelle to invite Allison to try on her bridal gown and to look for a whatever you call a veil. And Allison's in the car, clearly does not want to be there. And where are the kids at? I don't know who these kids are staying with, because if the three of them together, where are the kids at? And none of them are old enough to be home by themselves. And so, Allison just outright is disrespectful to Annabelle. She don't like her, and she's not. And now she feels that she doesn't have to hold back. And Annabelle's like, well, I'm not going to say anything because if I say something, it's going to make things worse. And I don't really fuck with her either. And so they go to try on a dress. We find out that Annabelle is very much like, I don't need to have all of this. I just bought me a dress from Amazon or online for $200. And I didn't really want to do all that because Annabelle was previously married, and she said that she was working in Dubai. She had secured a really good work contract in Dubai, and while she was working in Dubai, her ex actually was having an affair and had another child with somebody else while she was working abroad in Dubai, sending money back to him for her lifestyle, for their lifestyle back in the Philippines. So we get to hear about some of the trauma and some of the things that both parties have been through at this point, which I thought was really helpful to kind of give additional context as to why there's so much distrust between these parties, particularly Annabelle and Allison. And Annabelle did talk to Allison, and she said, I want to be a resource to you is what she meant. She did use her stepmom, but I don't think Annabelle really meant it as the stepmom because Annabelle got no kids. She still doesn't have any kids. And that doesn't say that Annabelle doesn't have a motherly bone in her body. I just think that Annabelle also, from certain comments, doesn't understand what it means to have kids and to have to, maybe be committed to them. Granted, I know she lives in a house with other kids with her family. I don't think she's willing to apply what she does know, if she does know it, with Allison and Shea, because Allison is a lot older. Allison's pushing 30 with 3 kids. However, I think that Annabelle saw that when she understood the grief and trauma that Allison is still enduring and going with, and honestly acting out on, it allowed her to say, hey, I'm here to be a resource. I'm going to be your father's wife. I'm going to be around. I would never replace your mother. I'm just here as a resource to you. That's what really should have been said, but nonetheless, I think Allison took it that way, and we will see if this opens up a new way, a new pathway for them to move forward in a positive way versus a lot of the pettiness that we've been seeing so far with these two. So I want to know what y'all think about Shea and Anabelle. If y'all have any comments about them, I don't hear a whole lot about them, and the same thing goes for Mallorie Ras. I'm not sure how interested people are into this couple. I'm interested to see where it's going to lead to at this point. I think that we're getting to the weddings. We may have, maybe just a couple of episodes to go. So it'll be interesting to get to the tell-all and to see where things are at. And that's when you'll probably see a lot more of me, of course. All right, y'all. So that's my opinions and thoughts on Shea Anabelle and Mallorie and Ras. I got one last couple to go to. No, I got two. Our most talked about couples. Miss Risson Edward and Asia Maxwell. All right, let's get into those.